Hey everyone, so today I wanted to talk about some of my favorite things that I just have been really liking throughout 2020, which is last year when I'm filming this. It is also last year when you're watching this, so I don't know why I even said that. I'm going to put timestamps down below so that you can just skip things that you aren't interested in. My favorite, the first favorite that I want to mention is matcha. So I've been liking it for a long time. Well, not a long time, a couple of years really. To be honest, I think I just didn't like it at first because I had tasted ones that weren't very good quality, and the ones that I have bought recently, well, usually I bought ones from cafes. Recently though, I actually started buying my own so that I could make them at home. And the first one I bought was this one. So both are obviously imported from Japan. They're not, I'm not sure that anyone is really farming, what is that called, Jesus? I don't know that any green tea is being made or produced here in Mexico, but I was very impressed by it. It definitely tastes completely different from, well, I guess it depends on the tea houses or coffee shops that you go to, but some of them don't have the best quality. And this is so nice and smooth. You can tell by the color of the actual powder when you buy it, when you open it. It looks much more bright and more green as opposed to being kind of yellowy. The more low quality ones look kind of yellowy or brown, and this one is a sort of a darker green and a sort of more vibrant green at the same time. It's less warm, it's more cool toned, and it's also brighter. It has a very smooth taste. It's very different from what I had known as matcha before, which is a bit more kind of grass-like, or it tastes just kind of like green tea, I guess, but this is very different. It's much more smooth and nice. Another one that I bought, well, actually this was a Christmas gift from my parents. This is by, oh by the way, didn't even say the name of the company, but this is by Sinensis, and this is actually slightly more expensive per gram than this one. This one is supposedly not as great quality as the other one, but both are ceremonial grade, which are meant to be, done into beverages, made into beverages, whereas the culinary grade are supposed to be for baking and making desserts and such. This is Iwa from Kokoro Tea. So I actually just realized that it's supposed to be refrigerated, preferably. According to this tin, it says that it's meant to be refrigerated just to preserve the flavor better. I'm not sure about that because the other one, I kept it just in the counter the whole time and it didn't really make any difference, I think, and I kept it for several months just like that. So this is just as great, very smooth taste. Like I mentioned, it's a little bit cheaper than the other one, but it's very, very nice. They are kind of expensive, really, much as an expensive thing, but if you want to drink matcha, it makes sense to buy one that is meant for drinking as opposed to one that you're probably not gonna like anyway, so you might have just wasted your money buying that one that is cheaper but you're not really gonna drink anyway. But taste is subjective and everything, so who am I? And from them I also bought this electric frother, and it looks like this. It's definitely nothing too special about it, it's just a frother. And it just makes it so much easier to make the tea, because traditionally it's made with a sort of bamboo whisk that you're kind of going at it for a while because it makes it frothy, right? But I'm just gonna make a latte with it at the end of it all, so I'm not really gonna be that traditional anyway. I would be interested in just drinking it in that way, but I feel like that's more of an experience and more something that if I ever, hopefully, maybe at some point go to Japan, I actually would love to go to one of those tea houses where you drink matcha that was actually made in that way, in that traditional way. So I'm gonna mention some of my favorite clothes that I not necessarily bought, but that I just wore the most in 2020. And this one I actually did buy last year, and it's just a cropped denim jacket that has sort of this really cute and interesting buttons on it with little jewels. Not a huge difference really, but just a small detail, and it has them on the back as well. And this is very flattering. I really love these crop jackets because I mostly wear high-waisted skirts like the one that I'm wearing. It's actually very comfortable, and of course it's another layer that you can wear because in winter and when it's cold in general, it's best to just layer things as opposed to wearing one or two thick layers, because apparently the heat is trapped more easily. So another of my favorite pieces this year is actually this gray skirt, and the thing is that this skirt I actually have had for probably, I don't know, 8 years. When I bought this I was more of an S to M really. I'm still somewhat of an S to M, but I think an S in bottoms is too small for me. So this actually is too small for me, or has been too small for me, and the zipper just broke. It's just giving, and in order to fix it, I had to both change the zipper and also make it slightly bigger, like just kind of make it a slightly bigger size, which is always a challenge because it's always easier to take out fabric than to add fabric. And of course it's not like I had some extra fabric of this type. So what I did was I changed the zipper, as you can see, and when I did that I just kind of unfolded the fabric that was covering the previous zipper. It was covering it like this, and I just kind of unfolded it, and it turned out to actually help a lot. The thing that really works is this part here. It obviously isn't meant to be like this. This is just my modification, and I changed it to this bra strap. Okay, this is a bra strap, not a bra strap, a closure, you know, bra closure. And it seems to work. I mean, it looks kind of strange really when you look at it by itself. When you look at this skirt by itself, it does look kind of strange. But if I'm wearing this under a black top, which is usually the case with my outfits, or if I'm wearing a top that has a sort of loose sweater, or the top is just loose and it covers that part on the back, you know, it's not a huge deal. And I don't really mind the fact that you can see the zipper either, because at the end of it all, I like the fact that I've had this skirt for such a long time, and the fact that it's still with me. I've actually, you know, throughout the year I actually try to find different skirts with this type of print and this cut that I could use to replace them, but it doesn't really work, because the thing with this cut is that it's gathered here at the top, as you can see, right? It's kind of has these small pleats here, but then at the bottom it's flat again. The part here kind of changes, you know. So here it actually makes it so that the wind can't really lift the skirt. And honestly, from something that I bought from Target like 8 years ago, it's been holding up pretty well. And the only reason it had to be modified is because of my own you know, stubbornness, I guess, wanting to wear something that wasn't my size. My next point, which is my favorite makeup products, and this is the Melt Muerte palette, and looks like this. You have already seen it. I mentioned it in my declutter video that I love to wear these two shades and maybe just this darker shade as a liner. And I really love the combination. They are very good formula. Those shadows, those pants in particular, have a very good formula. Other makeup products that I have been liking are the CoverGirl True Blend concealer. I'm wearing the shade Classic Ivory. The next one is the okay, I don't know why I'm even doing that. Who am I? But the next one is the Tattoo Liner by KBD Beauty, formerly known as Kat Von D. This is the tattoo liner in the shade Mad Max Brown, and I'm wearing it today. I'm pretty glad actually now that I didn't buy the black version, which I think I actually do have a lot of use for brown eyeliner, especially with these looks that are more daytime. Well, maybe for my standards, they are daytime appropriate. They're not super heavy or super, you know, intricate. I think a brown liner is very good for that, especially because my eyelashes are brown. By the way, the brown isn't really light brown, it's actually a pretty dark brown, but I like that. I like the fact that it's darker brown, but it's not black either. And the formula is great. First of all, it's very easy to work with, which tends to be the case for brush or felt tip liners. I prefer these pen liners as opposed to the ones that have like a well that you are constantly dipping into, because those ones tend to have a lot of product on the brush, and so they're harder to really control and work with. It has a great staying power. Even the first time that I put it on, and then when I went to remove it at the end of the day, I kind of placed the makeup pad over and kind of swiped with micellar water. I swiped, and at first nothing came off, nothing of the eyeliner, just the shadow. And I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? What did I do? But then I just went over it, just rubbed it a bit more, not much, just kind of went on it a bit more, and it actually did end up, rubbing off. But I think that just speaks to its staying power. It's very good. So then my other favorite is the Milk Makeup Lip and Cheek in the shade Work. This actually is a pretty recent favorite. I got it very early on. I got it as a free gift, birthday gift from Sephora back in January. Oh, it's January again. That's crazy. Anyways, yeah, back in January 2020, I got this one. And even though I don't love the shade as much, I really like the formula, and I like the way that it looks. I like the way that it looks on the skin, and it's very easy to work with. Okay, so my favorite book that I read in 2020 was The Letter Killers Club by Sigismund Krzyżanowski. And this one actually has very mixed reviews on Goodreads. I noticed a lot of people say that it's kind of pretentious because of the things that it proposes, or because it's trying to be too deep or something, or that it seems more like the stories were just kind of half-assed, because this is more of it has a thing where there's stories within the story. So it has a main story, and then the characters are writers, essentially, you could say that, and they are talking about the stories out loud, because the thing is that this book is essentially about not writing down the ideas, because to simplify things, because they essentially get lost or they turn into something else once they are written down. So the characters have their stories, and they just kind of say them out loud. They tell them out loud to other characters for them to critique. And to some people, it really seemed that those stories that they were telling just seemed kind of like they were ideas that were scrapped by the author, and the author just kind of put them in one story. But to be honest, I thought that, and in a way, that was kind of the point, I guess. Not really. I mean, it might seem lazy to some people, but to me it seemed like the stories weren't necessarily meant to be concluded, because they were not really the main story. Although I do have to admit that the story itself of the book, of the novel, is not completely concluded either. And it's the kind of book that you would probably have to read twice for you to really see things in hindsight and go, okay, so that's why these things were happening. But yes, I really enjoyed reading this book, and I think it is a very good one, especially if you read books like if you read authors like Jorge Luis Borges, or authors who generally do the whole meta fiction thing. I think you would like to read this. So throughout the year, I started to watch a lot of shows. Well, not that many, but more than a few shows. And a lot of them were westerns. I actually have been watching a lot of western movies too. And it's kind of interesting for me. I never really saw myself as someone who was interested in westerns. In fact, when I told my mom that, she asked me about what I was watching and such, and I was like, oh, it's this western, I've been watching westerns lately. And she kind of looked like me, like I had told her something horrifying. But not all westerns are like John Wayne or anything. Some of them just have nothing to do with that. And the ones that I watched, I would say, are very different from the general idea that we have of westerns, although I did watch some more classic ones, but not that many. So the shows that I watched were North of 60, Doctor Who and Medicine Woman, and then I'm also watching Longmire right now, in that order. So the first one that I watched the year was North of 60, and that one isn't exactly a western, unless you consider the fact that the main character is essentially a sheriff for a small town or something, but she's Canadian, so it's not exactly a sheriff thing. But like I said, it is set in Canada. It is in northwestern territories of Canada, and it is a small town of Dene people, and they essentially want to, obviously reach a higher quality of life within the town, but there's obviously all these conflicts about where to really go, where to focus first on the improving of the quality of life or to invest in businesses that could potentially give them a better quality of life over time. But of course, it's a matter of taking risks and everything. You see the main characters' ideas or views change on what it's like to be Dene and what it's like to live in a town like theirs. And also the other main character, who is the other police officer or the other Mountie, is someone who kind of sometimes has to choose between her community, because she's from that town, between her community and sort of what's legal and what she's supposed to do. Even if sometimes what's legal is of course not necessarily what is ethical. So like I mentioned, the second one was Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. There is not much to say about this show now that I think about it. I mean, I did like it, of course, but I'm not sure what to say about it. It takes place in the 19th century and it is definitely a Western, but it's focused more on, I guess, personal things regarding the characters. I guess it is more character based than anything else. It definitely has some boring episodes because it has a nature in which it does that thing where each episode can kind of be viewed by itself. It doesn't necessarily follow a plot. Like North of 60, I would say that does really follow a plot that, you kind of do have to watch it chronologically. And I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, it can prove to be good sometimes, since sometimes the episodes that are too isolated from the plot that come from Dr. Quinn are kind of boring ones. It definitely has some gems. The show, it definitely has some episodes that are really good or are much better than the rest, I guess. But I feel like North of 60 is one that has more of a rewatching, or you kind of want to rewatch that more because it has more, I don't know, the characters just feel a bit more realistic. It has more humorous or comedic moments, and it seems that it doesn't really take itself as seriously as Dr. Quinn does sometimes. So I'm going to talk about some movies that I watched throughout 2020. Not all of them are favorites, but the ones that I would say are the biggest favorites of 2020 that I watched only, the first time in 2020 were The Usual Suspects, which I knew that there was a plot twist and I kind of saw it from the beginning, but I still really like the movie. Unfortunately, it's the kind of movie that you can really just watch once, because the second time around it's not really the same thing. But another movie that I really liked was The Ballad of Nariyama. I was able to watch this really early on in 2020 and I was very impressed by it. It's the 50s version, at least. It's definitely like nothing I have seen before. It has a format very different from the movies that you have probably seen, unless you're familiar with, I guess, more traditional Japanese movies or media in general. I also watched the 80s version, which is a bit more updated, I guess, but I don't think it's as good as the 50s version, and I think it's actually much longer, the 80s one. I don't really remember, but it didn't really have the same impact, I would say. Another one is Wait Until Dark, which was pretty tense and entertaining. I'm not sure that I would rewatch it either, but it was very interesting and enjoyable to watch. Now, like I said, I had been watching a lot of westerns throughout the last year, and not all of them were really favorites. I watched, just to name a few, I watched The Searchers, I watched Stagecoach. Both of them have John Wayne. I like Stagecoach a bit more. I think it's a good movie, actually. The Searchers, I don't really get to To be honest, I don't know what to tell you about it. I just watched it and I was like, okay, that was a movie that I watched, and I'm not sure, but I mean, okay, it is interesting, you know, it is what it is. I'm not sure that I will rewatch it. I don't think I will, honestly, unless someone tells me that I missed something or there was something that I just didn't really understand about it. One that I was actually surprised by the fact that I liked was Comanche Moon. Okay, that's actually not a movie, that's a mini series, but it almost feels like a movie because it's only 3 episodes, I think, and you know, it has the same length as it basically has the same length as Dances with Wolves, which I also watched last year, but I feel like could actually rewatch Comanche Moon because there's always something going on, there's always something interesting about it. Okay, so let me add something. What I mean specifically is that there's constantly strong conflict and tension between characters, and the plot is constantly moving forward. So that is kind of what makes it really rewatchable. To be honest, things about it were kind of sketchy or rather questionable. It definitely does that thing where like all of the Indians, pretty much all of them, are bad except for one who helps the white people, and all the white people are good or at least mostly good. And also the biggest villain is a Mexican. So that is interesting, isn't it? But you know, regardless of my personal feelings about the casting and everything or the characters, it's a very entertaining thing to watch. I don't know, man. I mean, it's very low rated on IMDb, but there's something about it that just kind of enchants you, you know, entices you or whatever. There's something that I don't know, you can't stop watching. So in terms of the music that I actually listened to in the last year, to be completely honest, I didn't really listen to anything new. In terms of music at least, I kind of felt like just getting back into gothic music and kind of more sad stuff or more, you know, dark stuff or dark sounding stuff or whatever. You have probably noticed that because I ranked out of the songs by Sisters of Mercy recently, and I actually want to make another music themed video soon where I will be talking about albums that changed my perception on music and what music is. Really, in terms of what I was listening to throughout most of 2020, it was a bunch of albums that have been my favorites for a long time, with a couple of exceptions. One of those exceptions is The Cure 17 Seconds, which only really in the last months did I start appreciating it differently, because I had always seen it as some sort of watered down version of Faith, or I thought of it as something too simple or something too, I don't know, too subtle maybe. But I have actually been liking it much more than I used to. Another one is Lisa Germano, Geek the Girl. I probably mentioned that before, I'm not sure if I have. But this album is pretty different from things that I have listened to before. It's a very vulnerable album. There's something about her singing that is kind of weak in a way. Sometimes it's kind of weak, but it doesn't really feel whiny or anything. But it's also sometimes suddenly very lucid and kind of sure of itself. And the album starts off with a lot of, you know, dark stuff, especially regarding maybe sexual violence, and then ends with some degree of hope for the listener and for the author. Another album that I didn't appreciate as much before as I do now is Susie and the Banshees, Kaleidoscope. One that I maybe thought was too happy back then, like a couple years ago, and now I'm like, okay, I don't think it's particularly happy. It's just not the same as their earliest albums, but it is a great album. Maybe, okay, it is better than Join Hands, and it might be better than Juju, I'm not sure. All the songs are really, really good, except maybe for, I think, no, it's not Tenant. One that goes right after Tenant, I think. I even forgot the name of it because I just don't really even pay attention to it. But there is one song that I don't think is as great, but all of the other ones are actually, I mean, some of them are catchy and some of them aren't, but all of them are ones that I just have been listening to over and over. Desert Kisses is probably like the second or third most listened to song by me in the last year. Portishead. I also have been listening to their Roseland live album. The studio versions of some songs maybe could be said to be better, but for the most part I think the live version is by far superior, especially Sour Times, Misterons, and Cowboys especially. Well, Cowboys is definitely one that I have been listening to very often, since it literally makes me think of cowboys. I think maybe I just interpret things very literally. Another one is Love is Colder Than Death, Teen Mouth, I think it's pronounced. Okay, not all of the songs here are ones that I really listen to super often, but Town E, Wild World, off the top of my head I can say that those are ones that I listen to very often. There's 2 more or 3 more that I like especially. And there's also the album Spellbound. I like that one as well. And when I started listening to Dead Can Dance, I was really trying to find bands that sounded like them, but not like copycats or anything, just kind of the same thing, you know, not the same thing done in the same way necessarily. And I think I just haven't been able to find another band that sounds like them, except for Love is Colder. Teen Mouth doesn't sound as, I guess, soft, sophisticated as something like Dead Can Dance, but I think it's really doing something that is, you know, different from what Dead Can Dance had been doing before. It definitely sounds like its own thing. So one channel that I found recently and that I have been watching pretty often is Snake Discovery. I don't think I've ever mentioned this before, but I actually really like snakes. They are super cute. I mean, I'm not sure what I would do if I found one that has a, well, the thing is, where I live, we have a lot of rattlesnakes and stuff, so I'm not sure that I would necessarily pick one up and pet it or whatever. But a lot of snakes are completely inoffensive and they just don't really have any venom, or, you know, they could maybe bite you a little bit, but it wouldn't really be a death sentence or anything, or, you know, be particularly harmful. And snakes are one of those animals that I've always been really into. I really like to go to reptile houses of zoos and stuff like that. So those were my 2020 favorites, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And like I said, the next one is going to be about music, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I just said that, didn't I? But anyways, yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.